Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No Filter Gen Z. My name is Camden. I'm joined with Vidana and Lydia today, and we are young Americans fighting to defend the truth, and we have unfiltered conversations that other people are too scared to have here. But we're going to talk about the breaking stories that just happened with one of the biggest press conferences over this past week, and what Trump announced. And the biggest story we want to get to today is that they are planning on federalizing DC. I don't know if you guys know what that means, but basically the crime has gotten so ridiculous in DC that they're going to have to bring in the National Guard and this act that Trump has just invoked. And I'll play a video in a second. But welcome to the show, guys. We'll get into that as well as the ballroom story that's going to be come to the White House, or at least Trump is talking about doing. So we'll get into those things. But first, Lydia, you had an interesting point before we started filming about the crime rate of DC and in relation to the world. So just go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah, so it looks like literally the White House posted this on their social media yesterday, but it's the 2024 murder rate, and this looks like global murder rate per 100,000 people, and DC is at the top of the list for murder rate. It has 27.54 is their murder rate, and right underneath, like third down, Mexico City, and then behind that is Islamabad. So it's like, for the fact that DC, a place that is in the United States of America, has a higher murder rate than some of these places that are known to be extremely dangerous, drug-ridden, crime-ridden, homelessness, and the fact that we're on the top for that, that should raise some extreme red flags for Americans, and that it would definitely make sense for Trump to want to federalize DC because, again, it is the nation's capital. So why
Yeah.
would that be controversial anyways to do that? It's not like, it's owned by any particular state. Like, it literally is the nation's capital.
Yeah,
So
they
it makes
designed it like
sense.
that for a reason. But that is a
Yeah.
bad look for the rest of the country, because if your capital of the country is the biggest crime city, like that's not good. So, Fadana, what are your first impressions of this story and what's coming out of DC and all the crimes that are just getting out of control there?
Well, the president's job is to bring law and order, and that is what the people elected him for, is to be able to implement that. And so what we're seeing in DC, I think, is just like radical people that wants to destroy the United States inside and out.
Mm.
And I love the president's heart and his team and wanting to make sure DC is safe, because they're known for their national parks. They're known for, their conservative museums
Yeah, the
and
museums and
just
all those things.
history. Yes, they're known for that. And so just to see it being stripped down and destroyed, it's not right. And it being the capital, it doesn't add up. I could see if it was happening in another state or it just doesn't make sense, and I think, people that don't like the United States, they are doing it to basically tell us a message. But I like how the president is basically standing up and saying, this message that you guys are trying to tell us, we're not going to accept it. We're going to prove to you otherwise.
Yeah, and thank the Lord that Trump won, because you guys remember going back a few years, the Black Lives Matter riots destroyed DC. Like, there was vandalism all
Yes.
over all of the monuments, and they were trying to take them down, tear them down, set them on fire, set flags on fire. And even when the Palestine issue was really popular a few months ago, they were burning things down. So good thing we have a president that actually supports law and order and supports the police and wants to bring more peace and not more violence to these cities. Let's listen in real quick to what he said at the press conference the other day.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough.
Yeah, basically he's saying that they're not doing their job at the police department. They're not taking control of the crime like you're supposed to do as a police department, and the chief in there, and also the mayor is really liberal and it's always been a Democrat for a long time for some reason. even though the crime is continuing to go up, they don't seem to want any change of power in the local sphere there. So good thing you can step in as the president and change that. So Lydia, do you think this is a good move overall? I mean, I know some people are going to say it's all kinds of things, racist. We'll hear that in a little bit. But what are your impressions of him invoking this? You think it's a good thing?
I mean, I think he's definitely using his presidential authority here and of the executive branch, and I think it's definitely needed and warranted. I 100% agree with what he did. I mean, I watched snippets of that press conference yesterday, and it was just fascinating seeing like half of his cabinet in that room.
Yeah.
You know, Pam Bondi, and then Kash Patel was there, and just to see, how many people are literally behind him with this, which how could they not be? I mean, they have one of the best bosses that you could ever have. And so just to see this authority that he has behind him and that he is, pointing out the fact that the police in DC just have not been doing their job the way that they should.
And by the way, I think that's the leadership at the police department. I'm sure like the actual police officers are doing a great job, but the leadership behind it, they're not enforcing it like they should. So that's why you need the president to step in like that. But Fadana, do you think this has anything to do with race? Because I'm about to show you a video that a lot of people on different news networks are pretty upset because they think this is a racist move by Trump.
You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. How is wanting to protect your country and doing what's right in front of the citizen of the country racist? Like, he's not targeting a specific group of people. He's not saying, "Oh, I'm making DC safe because of Black people." Like, no, he's not. It just,
if anything, he's trying to protect them there in the city.
The radical left just doesn't make any sense. I mean, when you see any states that's run down by Democrat, Democrats have a nice way of destroying things. They really do. Any morals, any ethics, they are notorious for that. Like, they don't want anything to stand on. They don't like structure. They basically just like to be down on the pavement with the ground. That's what Democrats like. They just like destruction.
It's true. All right. So here's MSNBC talking about how they think that this is a racist move by Trump.
Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority Black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job. We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and
it starts with getting the criminals off the street. But the question itself, this guy's asking her. I mean, what makes you even go to race unless you're trying to divide people? Like, it always goes back to trying to divide. That's what they do. They destroy and divide, because no one was thinking that. We here. I have never thought one time of what race we're trying to target when we're trying to make a city safer. You're trying to protect the people in the city from evil, from criminals. It doesn't matter what your color is. If you're a criminal, you're a criminal, you know?
Yeah, it's just simply law and order. And how could anything like that be controversial, especially when she's like, well, we need all this and not that. Oh, but besides what Trump is doing, we don't need that, but we need all these other things. No, in order to have all these other things and do all these other things, you need to take the first step, as you said, Camden, to get the crime off the streets, because then none of this will be able to follow if you are lacking that and you're having crime running rampant.
This is only racist because it's Trump that's trying to do it. You guys know that, right?
It's so messed up. I mean, with anything, any pointers Democratic people usually have, it's always like this race politic. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Americans are sick and tired of it. We really are. It's not a matter of a color issue. It's just a matter of a common sense issue. because families want to be able to go to Washington, D.C. to the museum and
Right.
have a nice day with their kids, and once everything is destroyed, we literally have nothing to preserve at all. And so I think it's great that the president, he is being headstrong about implementing safety because I love going to Washington, D.C. I love being able to visit the museums and all the other cool places that they have there. And if none of that is preserved, then what am I going to really have to look forward to
Yeah.
visiting there?
And you want to be happy about the history of your country and being able to see it and see all the different monuments and museums of stuff that made your country what it is. And I want to be able to take my family there one day without getting robbed on the street. We want to make sure
Right.
that criminals are not out there. It doesn't matter if they're black or white. That's ridiculous to say that this is a race argument. But there's actual protests going on because of this. And I'm telling you, it's because Trump is doing it. They hate Trump so much that it's whatever he does, they're going to go against it, even if it's to make the city safer. So look, this is what's going on. There's literal
DC! Free DC! Free DC!
free DC.
Is DC not free?
Home rule! Home rule! Protect home rule!
If Trump wasn't the president, say Obama was the president, and he said he wanted to make DC safer by federalizing it, they would be like, "Yes, thank you for saving so many black lives, Obama." That's what they would say. These are the same people that would be saying that, but since it's Trump now, this is horrible, this is racist, and they're gonna protest it.
They don't like the messenger. They really don't like the messenger behind the truth that is being spoken. And just like you said, Camden, I'm sure if it was, popular ex previous president Barack Obama, I'm pretty sure they would have definitely been 100% on the bandwagon
Yeah.
with whatever it is that he says. But obviously it's coming from Trump, and because he's not, saying it in the manner that they would like, it's like tickle me Elmo. And just because he's strict, it doesn't mean he's not a good person. It's okay to be a strong, strict leader. That's what causes other nations to respect you.
Yeah, that's so true. I agree with the fact that again, like I think Trump does have a good balance though, because he does speak with authority, but he also, in times when he needs to be gracious, he is. But I definitely, in this time though, you have to have hold nothing back in this case, and you have to be bold, and you have to lead with strength because no one else is going to take you seriously if you don't. And I
Exactly.
think he does have the authority to do that.
Can you guys hear me?
With them chanting, yes, we
Yeah.
can hear
Okay.
you. With them chanting free DC is like, I guess my question is DC not free?
Yeah, what does that even
I don't
mean?
understand. I really don't understand. Like, what's the chanting for? Free DC. Is DC not free? Are you not able to wake up in the morning and go to work and provide for your family? Are you locked up in your homes? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
And by trying to lower crime, that will make DC even more free. So I don't know why you would be protesting that. But let me say this about the president and Trump. If you're the president, you swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. If you're doing that,
Exactly.
that comes along with taking criminals off the streets and doing things that are best for the
Exactly.
citizens that live there. And so I don't care who it is. If it was a Democrat president, this is still a great thing to do. Like it doesn't always have to be like so divided like the news likes to make it. A good thing is a good thing. Criminals getting or crime versus law and order is just black and white to me. And so when people make it about whoever's in power right then, it gets so divisive. But I think it always goes back to the media to me. Like they don't learn. It's the same things we've seen over the past 8 years when Trump has done anything. They go crazy and they look what they said about tariffs and where we are now. We've gotten billions of tax revenue and tariffs since Liberation Day, he called it, but they couldn't accept that. And no matter what he does, they're going to find something wrong with it. So I think that's really what I'm seeing the most of out of all these networks.
And some people just don't want the truth, honestly, because their heads have been in the sand for way too long, and so they don't. I mean, once you present all the facts to any left wing,
they always come at you and basically the first thing is you're a bigot, you're racist or whatever. They don't even
Yeah.
want to hear any points that you basically have to make because they think with their skin color and not their brains ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the media we've just noticed just how they spin things. And you look at like the spectrum of media outlets, and first of all, MSNBC, there's a reason why their viewership is so low.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
true. People are
when
starting to realize how twisted it really is.
because I, like Fidana said, sometimes like people like honestly don't want to hear the truth, but then a lot of people are sick of the lies. And so, that's why viewership on certain media outlets is so low, because people are starting to wake up and realize that how different, how far those types of news sources are from the truth and what they share, and they have an agenda and they want to portray that agenda, especially on the basis of race.
Speaking of lies, I have a clip from CNN here. Just listen into this.
Break, I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in DC was January 6th. And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump. And it included the people who were hurt, included members of law enforcement.
All right.
And it
well,
just
listen, I don't fully support what happened and what January 6th was, but it was definitely not the most violent day in DC. There's been so many things. And I mean, you got to look at, she said in recent history, look at Black Lives Matter riots in 2020 and what happened to the streets then. They were literally burning down buildings in DC. But January 6th was the most violent day?
No.
Well, it's because Trump, was president then. And so if there's any way that they can find any blame to basically pin at him, they're going to do it. I can see, like, in the United States, we're all entitled to our opinions and the way that we view things. But if the narrative is constantly spewing hate and division, then what's the whole viewpoint? I don't understand it. Like, I can see if the viewpoint was maybe there should be less police in this area because there's this and this going on. Okay, that makes sense. But to basically chant free DC or, he's destroying the country, these things just doesn't make sense. And that's where I have to disagree with, certain people just having certain different opinions, because their opinions sometimes just don't make any sense. The receipts just don't add up.
And I'm so glad that since the election and since Elon Musk bought X and since podcasts has become popular, there's so many different news networks or outlets, I guess, that are independent now, that we don't have to look at one thing and think, oh, that's all that's going on. Because we know now that there's complete shifting of the truth into narratives that aren't true. Like we saw the Russian hoax just came out that Obama was actually enforcing that and Hillary Clinton, and they were behind pushing something that wasn't true at all in 2016. So we know that they lie. Then we know that the media lies.
And we're still not being held accountable for that.
I know,
but
and they should.
I bet if it was Trump, they would have been like, oh, he's committed treason. All of these things that I'm sure they would have found on him.
Impeach him.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just keep the same energy. Keep the same energy that you keep for everyone else.
It's just
keep the same
It's really
energy.
funny how they only show the stories that make the other side look bad. Like they will never show anything, even if it's true. Like they won't show anything good because it won't help their narrative, pushing a Democrat or pushing a liberal forward,
And that's how there's definitely a demonic entity working behind these people, because what the enemy does is kill, steal, and destroy. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. I'm not saying, the Democratic Party is demonic. No, by all means, I'm not saying that. But the way that they're going about things is definitely bringing about a lot of destruction for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Tulsi Gabbard has said recently, like the deep state is deeper than we even realize. And so obviously there is a spiritual stronghold that's on that. And that's why certain information is not getting out, or certain information, there is a double standard on our party versus on the other side of the aisle. And so that's been evident time and time again. And I feel like it'll only get more intense, especially when the liberal Democratic Party has someone in office that they don't like, it's going to get more intense as we go along. But
The
it's just
difference
up to
is
us.
the difference is they get violent when they don't agree.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, that is the difference. And obviously, there are radicals on both sides. Like,
Yeah.
there are
Yes.
radical right-wing extremists, as they would call them, that
Yeah.
seriously
It's true.
are. And they do act with violence, but I feel like more times than not, it is the Democratic liberal party. It is the extremes on that side that do act with violence. And that's what we see more so happen in our country
Yeah.
than
I
our
second
side.
what Lydia said. We do have some, you know, very violent people on the right too. And so we're gonna hold both sides accountable. Violence is never the way to prove your point, you know, for anything. I mean, even when Martin Luther King was, you know, walking and wanting freedom, he wasn't using violence to get it. He really wasn't, you know. And so I think when people think, oh, I have to think in terms of violence to be able to get my way or whatever, it's like, where's the love in all of that? What's your heart motive behind whatever it is that you're doing?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like in general, the left is a lot more violent. Like on the average
Yeah,
typical person that's
for
a
sure.
liberal versus
For
a
sure.
Republican, even though there's extremists on both sides. It's just like an
Right.
anger that there's a difference because of the worldview they have, and it's everything is different because of who, like, what they're watching, where they're getting their
Right.
source from. Like,
And they feel suppressed.
yeah, that
Like,
too.
I'm like, who's suppressing you?
They
Like,
always make them the victim in the situation, and if
yeah,
you're always making yourself a victim, of course you're not going to feel good. And,
right,
and like we look up to God, and some Democrats
right,
do, but a lot of them don't want anything to do with God. They make something else
right,
their God, and I think that's where a lot of the stuff stems from is when they are trying to either be God or put something else on that pedestal.
right,
That you're gonna have anger and you're gonna have things that you can't get without God.
right,
Yeah. And they talk about also, getting religion out of daily life. Don't let your religion in my politics, but yet their religion is their entire ideology.
Wokeism
And
yeah,
is
that's
a
what we're
religion.
seeing. Wokeism,
yeah.
the LGBTQ
Or
movement, and
cancel
that is,
culture.
Yeah,
yes, that is their foundational beliefs. And so,
Yeah,
like, they can't see it in themselves. And so they'll point out, and that's why I truly believe that's why Christianity in America is so attacked, because of the fact that most of the people that are talking against Christianity are the ones that are so enveloped in this ideology that's just taking over them. And that's why, again, the victim mentality, that's a huge root of that. And that's why
hmm,
a lot of them feel the way that they do in
yeah.
that aspect.
Well, let's move on to the next story. Something that's actually on a lighter note that is fun to talk about is Donald Trump. President Trump wants to bring a new ballroom and expand the White House to this new room. So check this out. The White House announced this. They said, for 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space on the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed. President Trump has expressed his commitment to solving this problem on behalf of the future administrations and the American people. And so what he wants to do is bring an actual ballroom. Here's like a layout of what they were thinking about. And I'm sure this will change as time goes on. But the coolest thing about all of this is that Trump wants to use his own money to do it. And so liberals can't attack and say he's wasting money because he's actually using his own. So it doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't
Or
even
saying
affect the
or
government's money.
saying taxpayers' money. It's not
Yes.
taxpayers' money. It's Trump's money and then Doge,
Yeah.
and donors, and I think it's amazing, just the plan and him being able to think ahead of that and not telling the American people, hey, because I have this amazing dream, I want you guys to fund it. But he's leaving it up to the American people. If you want to donate, great, but I'm going to use my own salary to promote this. And I think what he's doing is amazing because other world leaders can go in there and have an amazing time because they always have balls all the time that happens in
Yeah.
the White House. And so for them to have more space, I think that's a great thing, honestly. You can't go wrong with having a little bit more space to host more people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm even if it was gonna be using some kind of money from the government, I wouldn't even be opposed to that. But because Trump is so selfless, he's never even
Yes.
taken his salary, by the way.
Right.
first term, second term, he's given it up both times.
He doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't want it either.
Yeah.
He wants to do what's best for the American people. And I'm not just trying to defend him completely, because there's some things on our side we actually have the ability to disagree with certain things and agree and say other things are good. Like the Epstein situation, I'm not happy with the answers right now.
Right.
But other things, I can still celebrate law and order and celebrate beauty in the White House and achievements and all these things. So it's not either or. You can have both. And that's where I'm at. But Lydia, what do you think about this?
I mean, I love that he is trying to restore beauty and expand the White House. I mean, this is something that we've never really seen happen. And again, this can help as far as like diplomacy too. And again, when he has those world leaders come, that they can, look in awe at like how much pride we take in our capital and the White House, and just to see that, because I know Trump has also talked about restoring the old architecture in the buildings in DC too, just like having all of that just be beautified in a way. And so I feel like this ballroom is an extension of that for him personally. And I love that he is, using his own salary to do this, because I think that speaks volumes, because that
Yeah.
really does show that he truly does care about America. And it's not anything of like, oh, like, I care, but like, tax dollars kind of thing. But it's like tax dollars go to this, but it's really like out of the goodness of his heart, like he is doing this because he believes in, being the president. He believes in America and
Yeah.
what he wants to see happen in these next couple of years. And I feel like this, obviously is a small thing compared to the grand scheme of things of what he's already done. But I think that this really does help to solidify his beliefs and the extension of our party's beliefs in America, for sure.
And I think if you're going to take the time and money to make a whole new thing for something that you're not even going to be around much longer in the White House to experience, that's a cool thing to do. Like he's doing this for the future administrations too, because he's only got 3 more years left and then he's out of the White House. So it's cool to build something that will last longer than him. Like I think a lot of what Trump does is about legacy. Everything he does, not just this, but also like all his policies are about making America great as long as it can last without him. Because he knows like he has to do the work right now, but he wouldn't do this at 79 years old after getting shot, when he has a family, all these things, if he didn't care about legacy. And he really cares about America. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to him as a leader, is he actually wants to see sustained success for the country.
Right. And even too, he's never been one like that have had a problem admitting where he's wrong. I've definitely seen some humility in terms of this second term of him, admitting where he's wrong or whatever it is, and just even him thinking about the next generation and even our generation. I think it gives us hope, because so many people many times talk down to Gen Z saying, oh, like there's not a future for them. But he's not just thinking about Gen Z. He's thinking about the other generation after Gen Z, because he also has grandkids too, And so for a man to definitely have such a beautiful heart that's very patriotic, and I think people should love their country, honestly.
Yeah.
America is not perfect, but you should take pride in your country, because it's men and women who fought so we can have our freedom. Freedom is not something that's free. There are people who are on the battleground as I'm talking right now that are fighting for our freedom because, from extreme, terrorists that want to come and bring harm to our country. And so I think there's a lack of patriotic Americans. Like, I am proud to be a Haitian American because this country has given me so many opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have had in my country. And I think there's just a lack thereof with the patrioticness in this country.
I agree. And I think it's the country, like there's such a divide. Even the other side doesn't even like to hold an American flag anymore. And that image right there, it's sad. Yeah. And people are going to say that we're just like worshiping Trump by saying all these things he's doing. But really, we just love our country. We love our country. We want it to be as best as it can be, like you just said. So you nailed the head on that. But I'm not saying anything for Trump. I think he's a great leader for us. It's not the other. I'm not saying, yes, thank you. I'm saying I think God saved him for such a time as this. Like I always say that, and people will disagree and say that that's stupid. But I think he did. And I think if we just are more grateful in general about everything, then our country is going to be a lot better, because the other
Right.
side will just find something wrong even when there's good things happening. It's always the
Right.
negative.
And if God didn't have a plan for him, I mean, 3 attempts on this man's life.
Yeah.
I mean, the first or second attempt could have taken him out, but obviously there is definitely an angelic supernatural power that is protecting him. Although some people may not admit that, it's God, but we all know it's God.
And God uses imperfect people all the time. So I don't want to hear people say like, "Oh, you just think Trump's an angel. He's perfect." No, God uses. Look at the Bible. That's how I know you
King
haven't.
David.
That's how I know you haven't read the Bible. If you say that, because
Right.
God used imperfect people time after
All
time.
the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
He doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He picks. The best stories are from people that actually came from the worst places, and He turns them
Exactly.
around.
Yeah, and I look at King
Exactly.
David too because I feel like he is I feel like as far as parallels in the Bible, I feel like King David and Trump there's a lot of parallels
There
because
are,
again, they
yeah.
are strong leaders, but they went through things, in their early years in their past, they're extremely flawed, just like we all are. But,
Yeah.
David's was very much on display, just like Trump's are, because Trump has always been a figure just in culture and now obviously politics. And so, but I
Hmm.
will say too, I feel like the people that are within Democratic Party that are so blinded by things that they, want to believe and want to see. I feel like until they will truly be able to see the truth once they leave that party, because
Mm.
that party has become so corrupted and flawed. But once they take that step and they don't have to come over to us, but at least just like have kind of a moderate view
Yeah.
and just kind of an
See
independent
everything.
view and see
Right.
everything for
Step
what
back
it
for a
is,
second.
because that party has become so corrupted. And I mean, I truly don't know if they'll ever recover from that. And based on who we see on the pedestals within, and we got Newsom, we have Kamala Harris, we have AOC, Bernie, like we have all of these people, and
Sorry.
it's
Yeah.
like
Or
I
Bernie
don't know.
Sanders.
That's right. Yeah, he's still relevant apparently, but just to see all that, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how they're ever going to recover as
Yeah.
far as that goes. So they really do have to separate themselves if they want to be open to the truth, so to speak.
Yeah, and they need to want to make America great and not destroy it and
Again,
hate
yeah.
and tear down and all this stuff they always do. They need to get away from that and start focusing on practical issues and not made up things that like the racism and the hate and the identity stuff that they keep bringing up that isn't there, just like we saw in the DC story today.
And they hate America so much. And I'm like, well, why don't you get a flight and go to another
Yeah, why do
country
you just
where
not? Why don't you
some
just
people
leave
don't
then?
have freedom, where they can't go out in DC and scream, free us, free us.
Exactly.
Like, please do yourself a favor. If you hate this country so much, go to a different country and
Yeah.
and feel the oppression. Then you can really say, oh, you're being oppressed.
Yeah. All right, guys. One more video. I'll leave you guys with this before we go. Let's see what Trump says about the White House ballroom.
How many donors do you think it's going to take to get the 200 million?
Maybe one, me. But
You would cut that check yourself.
I would, yeah.
He's asked how many donors it would take, and he says maybe one, me, because he knows he wants to be the one that he's going to use his own money and make this ballroom awesome. So
Love that for him.
yeah, and both things to wrap up here are about making DC great again. Both of them. Like if we just combine everything we talked about today, it's about doing the things that we need to do to make our capital beautiful, safe, and free. Even though they say they're trying to get free, whatever they're trying to say, the things that he's trying to do,
DC. Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. But I think both things combined will make our capital a reflection of the whole country, because we don't want our capital to be trashy and violent and stuff, and then people are like, dang, like your country, this is your capital, this is your example of what your country is about. That's got to be the best city in the country.
It has to be. It has to be pristine.
Yeah, it has to be a beacon to the rest of the country and the world, even that we are strong. It's not just words, but it's also just by the way that we appear to the world too.
Yeah. All right, well, let us know your thoughts on both of those topics. If you like the White House ballroom coming, if you don't, also if you agree with federalizing DC or not, let us know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Lydia and Fedana, thank you guys for joining me today. And if you guys are new to the channel, click that subscribe button. Join No Filter. We're here every Sunday with a new video. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
All right.